Our homeowner wants to play the guitar as loud as they want whenever they want. In this video, I'm going to show you how we go about soundproofing this garage. If you're a homeowner, DIYer or builder looking to create a soundproof garage, this is a great video for you. Our homeowner wants to play the guitar as loud as they want whenever they want. And I'm going to show you what we put on the walls, what we put on the ceilings, the doors, the floor. We're going to look at ventilation and sound absorption too. At the end of the video, we're going to play the guitar in the room. We're going to pump that amp up to the max, play the guitar, go outside, see what we can hear. I'm going to give you an idea of how much it costs to have it all done for you. And if you're a DIYer looking to do one of these rooms yourself, I've got a great gift for you. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's get stuck into how we soundproof this garage. When you're trying to soundproof a garage or trying to soundproof a garden room, I would argue one of the most important aspects is the roof. And understanding the difference between a warm roof and a cold roof system is key to getting a significant reduction in noise. Now, I'm not going to go through the difference between a warm roof and a cold roof in this video. I'd recommend checking out these two guys. They can certainly explain the difference between a warm roof and a cold roof better than I can. And the link for those videos is in the description down below. But basically, when you have a warm roof system, you're limited on the amount of sound insulation you can install beneath the rafters. If you install too much sound insulation, you're going to bring the dew point down and cause yourself a condensation issue. And of course, for playing a guitar or drums, you need as much sound insulation as you can afford, both space and budget available below those rafters. With a cold roof system, you can put as much sound insulation as you want below the rafters, and then when the heat from the room rises, where the warm air meets the cold air, the ventilated gap blows the water droplets off and you don't get a condensation issue. So any soundproof room or soundproof garage with a roof, look at a cold roof system. As I said, check out those two guys. They can certainly explain it a lot better than I can. For this particular garage, it had a kind of cold roof system in place with rigid insulation. So we removed the rigid insulation because we know that that will channel the noise. It creates that drum effect. Noise transmits so easily through it, and we didn't want the noise being channeled to the neighbour's bedroom windows. We're in quite a built-up housing area here, and the idea is to have the homeowner be able to play the guitar as loud as they want whenever they want. So we don't want anything like rigid insulation on this renovation. We replaced the rigid insulation with an RW3 rock wall, installing it between the rafters, leaving a good air gap between the felt and the rafters. We actually checked the felt for holes, making sure that was sound. We increased the ventilation between the RW3 rock wall and the felt here. This YouTube video might give good insights, but I would recommend getting your roofing system checked by a roofer or maybe even a consultant, and I'll put a link to a consultant in the description down below. But don't go copying this roofing system if you're unsure. We build these studios all the time. There's actually quite a lot of calculations go into the different roofing systems. So get your roofing system checked out before you go just installing rock wool, and absolutely don't just go install rock wool and resilient bars without having expert advice, because you will cause yourself a condensation issue. But for this particular project, we installed the rock wool RW3 between the rafters. Then we went over the top with a 5 kg mass loaded vinyl, and see how we've extended the rafters further. So we've increased the amount of insulation we can get in. These are like a 3x2 pressure treated timber. We then install another 75mm rock wool between those 3x2 timber. So remember, we've got 100mm rock wool. Then we've got a mass loaded vinyl followed by another 75mm rock wool. So we've got a good amount of rock wool on that roof. The walls are brick, and the roof was just felt and tile with that rigid insulation that we removed. And we're trying to bring the roof up to the same spec of the walls. So the majority of the sound insulation investment is going to be on the ceiling. So the 3x2 timber, we're installing a resilient channel, and this is to decouple the finished ceiling surface from the structure. And here we're using the original clip and channel system, the Genie Clip system. If you want to find out where to purchase Genie Clips, check out the link in the description down below, and there is a discount code for you as well to give you a bit of discount off of the Genie Clip system. So the Genie clips, we're installing a maxi board. Now you hear me go on about maxi board in my other videos. Check out 7 ways to soundproof a ceiling and also 7 ways to soundproof a wall. I mention and go into a lot more detail on maxi board and different things that you can install to clips and channels and resilient bars in those videos. As I said, we're trying to bring the roof up to the same spec as the walls. The walls are double brick and therefore we need to add a good amount of mass to the ceiling to bring them in line. Otherwise the roof will still be the weakest point. Maxi board is a great interlocking product. It adds a lot of mass. So far for this roofing construction, we have the felt, the air gap, we have the 100mm rock wall, we have the mass loaded vinyl, the 75mm rock wall, and now we've just installed a Genie clip and then maxi board. To the maxi board, we're going to install a 15mm soundboard board. And notice how we're sealing up this ceiling system airtight against the walls. So it's decoupled with the 4mm gap, of course, and then sealed with acoustic sealant all the way around. Remember, we're not building a floating room within a room like we normally do for acoustic drums. In fact, if you used acoustic drums with this particular type of construction, using this particular type of soundproofing technique, I'm sure you will still hear the drums outside this room and you'll be limited on the times that you can play because of the close proximity of other houses. Now that we've got the ceiling airtight against the walls, we can carry out the rest of the first fix electrical and ventilation first fix. For here we're installing wall lights, ceiling lights, air conditioning, ventilation and various sockets around the room for specialist equipment. With regards to ventilation, I'm going to go into this a bit in later on in the video, but you want to install the ducting and 2 pieces of ducting for air coming in and air coming out. Basically what we like to do for the ventilation system is we have a ducting pulling air out of the room and we have ducting pulling air into the room. When I say pulling air into the room, you're going to have an inline extractor on the ducting pulling air out of the room, and you don't have to overthink this. You're really just using a inline extractor from your local B&Q, or for here we've used Screwfix, and we've used an inline extractor which outperforms the cubic meter of the room, and that will pull air out of the room. And then you similarly you're using an air brick approach where you have a hole with the acoustic ducting, and that will then have lots of S-bends in, and that will pull air from the soffit or the eaves. For here we have a roof space the other side of this wall, and it will go in there and it will have like lots of a rock wall, and then it will go vent outside. And that's all you need to have to create a ventilation system, because if you're in that room within 40 minutes you could potentially have a headache because you're breathing in your own air, your own CO2. So ventilation system is key for this type of room, for this airtight room. For the walls, you can see that the homeowner has already bricked up the doors and windows that were there before. They actually had a family friend that was in the trade and they come and bricked up the doors and the windows for us. For the walls, we don't need to spend as much money on the sound insulation as we've done the ceilings. The mass is already there. You've already got double block, I should say, to the structure. We just need to reduce the noise getting into the structure or reflect the noise of the guitar back into the room. When we remove some of the plasterboard and render from the walls and expose that rigid insulation from the ceiling, we actually got an idea of the awkward shape of this room. It's actually quite a challenging, awkward shape this ceiling and the walls have. They were very unsquare and very unlevel, and that made the Baton System our preferred approach for this particular studio. We didn't have the space for a floating room within a room, which would take up 175mm if we were to sound dead in the walls. This particular system took up 95mm. We put the 2x2 battens on an anti-vibrational pad. We then insulate between the battens with a RW3 rock wall. We then use our trademark system that you see in a lot of our videos, which is the mass loaded vinyl. And remember, it's a 5 kg per meter squared mass loaded vinyl. Then resilient bars and 2 layers of 15mm acoustic grade plasterboard installed to those resilient bars. All the usual soundproofing rules apply. 4mm gap, sealed with acoustic sealant, making sure you put the same materials behind any electrical sockets that you've put on the wall. Make sure you have a 4mm isolation gap from the walls to the ceiling where that joins, and also in each of the corners make sure there's a 4mm isolation gap there and off of the floor too. Now notice how we do it. We're doing the floating floor after plastering. And what we've done here with the floor, we've used a 3x2 timber on anti-vibrational pads, and then we've insulated it with the rock wool again, and then we've installed a standard chipboard product here. The floor is isolated from the walls all the way around. Here we're using a bit more of a gap, bit more of a 4mm gap from the floor of the walls. Remember, the walls go down with a 4mm gap off of the subfloor, and then with the floating floor, we're using quite a big gap, but that's covered by the skirting. We are really trying to decouple the floor from the structure, because that's where the amps are going to be, that's where the subwoofers are going to be. We're really trying to stop that low frequency noise getting into that concrete subfloor that we have here in the garage. I see so many garden room studios where someone's created a floor first, and then they start building the room within a room off of that floor. Make sure the floating floor is done last. Otherwise, you're just creating a drum and then you're building a room off of that drum. So always build the floating floor last. After you've done all the plastering and installed the floating floor, we're on to the fixtures and fittings. And the first thing we're going to do is the doors. Here we've used FD60 fire doors, and we're going to upgrade them with a 10 kg per meter squared Texan like this. And then we install a 15mm sound block board as well. And we install this on the FD60 fire doors, but on the studio side. So both doors in the double door system will have the heavy duty board on that side. So we're treating the noise at source. These doors, although they don't look very aesthetically pleasing now before painting and decorating without the door furniture on, we can actually get really good reduction in noise by upgrading FD60 fire doors in this way. We can actually get better reduction in noise using this double door system than we can any bespoke manufactured door. So let's just have a look at the studio. Now let's go outside the other side and see what we can hear outside. Notice how the ceiling has not been plastered, because we're going to install sound absorption to the ceiling. We're going to now leave the homeowner to do the painting and decorating and have the carpet refitted, and we will then return to do the remaining fixtures and fittings. Earlier on in the video, I said if you're a DIYer builder looking to build one of these rooms yourself, I have a free gift for you. Well, here is that free gift. In the description down below, I've given you a link where you can download a guide I've made for you. I've given you our studio methodology, how we go about treating the ceiling, the roof, the floating frame, the doors, the walls, the climate control, the gadgets, even the sound absorption as well. Download that guide, use it as a checklist if you choose, and I hope you get value from it. All right, back to the studio where the homeowner has done the painting and decorating. Normally with a double door system like this, the bigger the gap between the two doors, the more reduction in noise. Just remember to install plenty of sound absorption between the two sets of doors, otherwise the sound will resonate between the two sets of doors. Remember, the floating floor is isolated from the structure, so make sure your skirting architrave is decoupled from the floating floor. This switch here next to the light switch is the extractor. So we like to put a little switch with a light on, like the old immersion switches, and that just lets the homeowner know when they leave the room to turn the lights out. They just lets them know that the extractor is on. They can leave the room. When they come back into the room, their room is nice and clear with fresh air in there for them. And then if they're recording or doing anything specialist, they can then just switch that off if they choose. Next, we're on to our sound absorption. To all of our studios that you see, we always install this product to the ceiling, and then we leave our homeowner to install as many finishing bits as they want depending on their hobby. Some drummers like it acoustically dead, some acoustic guitarists like it a bit more, like the room a bit more lively. We always finish the ceiling in this particular type of sound absorption, and you can see more details on that in this video here. It's the same product that we install to schools, community halls, and our specialist hearing clinics as well. There was a slight change of design last minute where we were going to have a suspended ceiling at the apex of the roof, and that would mean the lighting, the smoke alarm, and the extractor would be in the center of the ceiling of this suspended ceiling. But yeah, as I said, slight change of design, and that's why the extractor is at the apex there, and things have been positioned like they are at the apex of the ceiling. And that was mainly due to the shape of the building and making it look right. Okay, so what is that soundproofing result, and how much did the whole thing cost if you were to have it all done for you?
Right, go for it.
Okay, so there was quite a lot of planes going over and quite difficult to get a break between planes, but hopefully that gives you a good idea of the reduction in sound that can be achieved from that level of sound insulation installed to a double brick wall. If you want more, it's best to install a room within a room approach. This is not a room within a room that I've shown you. The soundproofing is fixed to the wall and to the ceiling using a clip and channel system and a basic resilient bar system. If you have acoustic drums, I strongly recommend a floating room within a room where you sound deaden the walls first, and then you build a room decoupled from the structure and then a floating floor decoupled from the floor, and that will give you a significant reduction in noise and definitely at those lower frequencies as well. But hopefully this gives you an idea of what can be achieved with minimum, only 95mm space loss to the walls and 200mm space loss to the ceiling. So how much does it cost to have it all done for you? If you're looking at having a room like this built by our installation team, to have it all done for you where you don't have to lift a finger, we take care of the painting, the decorating, the block work, the carpet fitting, everything done for you, you're looking at £35,000 to £40,000 at the time of filming. Now, of course, if you're a DIYer or builder looking to do this yourself, it would be a fraction of that cost. Alright guys, that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed the video. For all of my subscribers, I will be publishing a video for acoustic drums using the room within a room approach. That's where we sound deaden the walls first and the ceiling. We then build that room within a room and we literally just don't hear the noise outside the room. If there's anything you want me to include in that video, let us know in the comments down below in this video and I'll be sure to include that. Alright guys, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video.